So I've tried a couple times to go live in my group, and for some reason I'm having technical issues, and I want to give this to you. So I'm just going to record on my, I'm just making a recording and I'm going to post it. So here we go. I was talking about Aries energy and how it can be very invasive. So, and everyone's being affected by this. We're all being affected by it, whether we're aware of it or not. And so there's a lot of fire energy in the air. And Aries is this warrior archetype. It's a teenager archetype. It's very excited. It's determined. It wants things, and sometimes it doesn't know how to get them. And so, like, it doesn't understand like the step-by-step process. It's like aggressively like, let's just go and let's just do it, which is cool. I think there's a lot of value in that kind of energy, but just being aware of it and then understanding how to anchor it and how to work with it is so valuable this time of year. I love the springtime and setting new intentions and really getting grounded and rooted in the what kind of foundation am I setting for this year, because I like to think of springtime as a new year. It's a sense of renewal, right? I think it's interesting to celebrate the new year in winter, but it's because it's in the dead of winter and that's where we kind of plant some seeds. But now we're sprouting. We're like, this is like we're just sprouting with some ideas and learning how to integrate them into our life in a really grounded and new way. Okay, so basically it's about understanding where your boundaries are off. Are your boundaries being completely honored and respected? Is there ways that you're feeling pushed? Are other people around you manipulating you in any way? Anything that feels invasive, anything that feels like it doesn't honor who you are. And so how is it coming in? How does it get into? If this is your energetic field and someone affects you in a certain way, how do they get into you? What gets under your skin? And a hot button for me is being spoken down to. A hot button for me is, it's like patronizing, entitled, pushy, aggressive energy. And then it's also like they get in because there's a part of me that believes, and this is what you have to do, is they get in because there's a belief. I have a belief that maybe I'm not responsible enough. And that's like deep-seated childhood stuff. Okay, so maybe there's I have a belief that I'm not responsible enough and someone else should be in charge. And that still affects me today. But I'm consciously aware of it and I can work with it. So there's been a lot of stuff in my personal field where people come in and kind of shake that, my sense of internal knowing, my sense of internal, just that anchor. Like they shake my sense of self. Okay, there's an ability to make me doubt myself. But so for you to kind of understand what gets into you and what does it make you feel about yourself. And sometimes how we feel about ourselves isn't how we respond. Okay, so maybe I feel small and I feel like I need to apologize. Maybe I do that. Maybe I apologize. Maybe I let them and I just go kind of like I'm submissive and I let them kind of control me. Or maybe I become aware of this pattern. I know this pattern about myself. And I know that I don't need to apologize. I know this is just bully energy coming at me and that I can alchemize. It into a way that works for me. And what I know about myself is that my way of meeting aggression was to be aggressively defensive. And I learned that meeting aggression with my aggression polarizes and locks me into aggression even more. So then I continue perpetuating the same dynamic with other people. And that's what I don't want to do. So that's what we can work with this, right? So kind of determining what does it make you feel about yourself? How do you want to respond? How do you respond? What's really ideal? So if you sit back in your love warrior archetype, okay, so the ability to say, to have so much compassion for yourself and simultaneously have so much compassion for them. And to just understand that that people come at us or people pull at us. Someone wants to make you feel guilty, they're kind of pulling at you. Okay, so either way, no matter how they get in, how your energy is affected, just determining what it is, what's the ideal, what's the love warrior in you that has so much compassion for you and has compassion for them. What's the healing idea? So for me, in this example of aggression, and I feel like this is like the theme for most people. So I'm using this, I'm talking about myself, but I feel like this is like so, this is just applies to so many people right now because we're in this fiery kind of thing. So how do you ideally handle aggression? And what does your love warrior want you to do? And my love warrior is like helping me to set boundaries with tact, with finesse, with compassion, and say, oh, actually that doesn't work for me. This is what works for me. And just the ability to say no. Sometimes people just are they're stubborn and they hold on to what they want you to do. And you can say, actually, no. And no is a complete sentence. I love that phrase we use all the time. But I love sometimes just responding with no. I mean, it could be a no, thank you. It could be actually, that's a no, that's not going to work for me. But sometimes I feel like just a plain no is kind of medicine. Like it's good for that person to just get a no. You could determine that and kind of determine if it's coming from a place of love and compassion or if it's coming from snark or sassiness or feistiness. Just kind of determine, because you really want to make sure that you're anchored in an energetic place of love to activate your love warrior. You want to feel strong in your sense of self-love. You want to feel strong in your sense of compassion for people around you. Love warrior energy. Okay, because it's really understanding that insecure people are going to act and come into invasive places, or come in and be invasive, because there's somewhere, and they're probably not thinking the words like, I'm so insecure that when I push people around, I feel more powerful. But that's usually what's going on in an energetic way or underneath the surface of whatever story they're telling themselves. And this is how you can just hold space for their security, for their insecurity, and know that when you say no, or when you say, oh, this in that way doesn't work for me, but this in this way will work for me, that's going to be okay. That you're doing healing work in that. And so let's talk about the love warrior. Okay, so the love warrior, what we need to be is really gentle with ourselves. And we need to be actively shifting internal shame. We're all really processing. We have such a shame-filled culture where our parents or our authority figures, it's really easy to manipulate people. It's really easy to get people to do what you want them to do when they feel bad about themselves. When they feel like something that they want to do makes them wrong and even makes them feel like there's something wrong with them for wanting that. And so I see this is like cultural, this is religious, like so much stuff in religion of, how could you even want that? Like, what's wrong with you? And so for people to go and say, well, what's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me. Then they act to help themselves feel better. So they don't, so there's like, see, look, I'm good. I'm a good person. See me ignoring my own internal sense of desire and how like I'm good. So, and there's a lot we could say about that, but I just want to say that most of us are really working with, it's so important to understand that shame is a manipulative tool that's been ingrained in us, and that there's nothing wrong with us. We're just people, and that we're coming from this place of that prioritizing yourself is okay, and that we have to constantly come back with, there's nothing wrong with me. I am just learning how to be okay with doing new things. I'm learning how to shift my patterns. I'm learning how to shift from survival mode into creative mode and spiritual mode without feeling, I'm healing my shame, and I'm living from a place of creativity and love and spirituality rather than that survival. The survival stuff, that's shame. Okay, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, so, but it's just coming back to a place of like being very gentle with the self, and also knowing that other people are struggling with the same thing, and that we can just kind of hold a healing space for them. But when we set boundaries and when we do it with a place of love, that's also supporting other people in their healing process. So we have to have a very strong sense of self-compassion. But this is the thing, though. This is the thing, is that I have to start to activate a sense of spiritual adultness. Like, if a person is really toxic and they're coming into my space and they're activating something in me that makes me feel bad about myself, I also have to understand that their level of toxicity makes me the spiritual adult in the situation. And that I have to interact from a place of spiritual authority. And I guess that's like, I don't want to be misunderstood here, because if you're a person, I think there's the lighting is so weird. It just, oh well. Okay, so if you have the ability to observe yourself outside of yourself, if someone can talk to you about their hurt feelings and you can say, oh, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, this is how I meant. And if you're not getting defensive and you're not saying something like trying to twist it around and turn it against them, if you really have that observer archetypal ability inside yourself, you are going to be the spiritual adult in many situations. And so really just sitting back and anchoring into the sense of just fearless love of, when you see someone cross that boundary of being, you see a toxic trait and you see what they're willing to do and you see how willing they are to manipulate you, you're in this place of knowing and understanding and negotiating feelings, negotiating emotions, or negotiating your interactions with, you don't need to make them wrong. You don't need to have that conversation of this is how I am and this is what you're being, because a lot of times when people have a certain level of toxicity and they lack that sense of self-reflection, those kind of conversations are just going to fall flat. So it's really learning how to set boundaries in the moment, right in the moment. And that's a learning process. And I'm totally in that process. There was a situation that happened last week that I really wish I handled differently. And I just went to shutting down. She was aggressive in my space. And I was just like, I was confused because I was like, is this really happening? Is she really talking like this? And I was just kind of like, but even a few days later, or even later that day, I was like, oh, I could have said this, I could have done that, I could have like handled it in a completely different way. But it's just like being patient and just understanding and learning. But it's so once we get really set in a place where, and also if it's confusing, if you really don't know how to respond rather than react, you can feel yourself reacting, but you want to respond from a place of like collected energy and the sense of compassion. You can say something like, "Woo, there's just a lot of information coming at me, and I honestly don't know what to say right now." Just to verbalize, like, I'm just kind of feeling a little confused. Just give me a few minutes, or give me an hour, give me a day to try to just negotiate, like understanding that confusion when you're like, wow, this person's really behaving a certain way. And I feel a certain way and I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. You can just ask for space. You can just say like something about, okay, this is just a big surprise to me. I'm not really clear let me have a conversation about it with my partner, or let me let me sleep on it. Give me some space. That's always a good thing, because that's what I could have done in the moment, because I was like, whoa. And understand that's a learning, but when we're really centered in our sense of love warrior, when we're really comfortable in our spiritual adult, and we're really okay with someone coming in, someone like a toxic dynamic comes up, someone wants to invoke guilt or blame or shame, or someone comes in with authority, aggressive energy, then you see it in the moment and you're like, oh, you know what? This just doesn't work for me right now. Or, you know what? Let's just do it this way instead. Oh, you don't like that? Well, this is like, I'm not willing to do the thing that you're asking. That doesn't work for me, but you know what works for me? And if it doesn't, if this doesn't work for you, we could just say no, like you can find that service elsewhere, or I can find the help I need in another way. It's really just activating a sense of staying centered in your sense of self, and not allowing other people to push you around or making you feel something that is changing the way you feel about yourself. Okay, so I'm trying to speak really general about some specific stuff, and I hope that I'm going to keep talking, because I think the spiritual adult thing is really important. And this is where getting really tuned into your own archetypes, your own survival archetypes, how your survival patterns came in online when you were a child, and the kind of survival triggers that you have that make you feel unsafe, and the stories you're saying to yourself about yourself in those moments, how people get to you, how people affect you in a not so positive way, and then determining the energetics, the archetypal energetics that are coming out, and then really learning how you can shift out of those dynamics in the future. This is why I love working with the energetics of archetypes so much. And if you want to go through a process, I'm happy to support you with this. I think I'm going to create just a specific archetype class. This is how I work with people one-on-one. So if you have questions about any of this, message me. I hope this makes sense, though, in a general way, so you can really implement and anchor this in with this Aries energy, because it's a really good time to set intention, to move in a different way, and to reestablish your boundaries with yourself and with other people. So today is 4/4, happy April 4th. They're calling it the 4/4 portal. And they're saying this has been a powerful time from the spring equinox to today, but Aries season is going to go on for the next few weeks. So this is really potent fire energy to work with. So you can post questions below. I'm happy to respond. If you want a single coaching session, or if you want to go on a series, like a process together, message me. I'm really happy to work with you in this way. Happy spring, and we will talk Later.